Hey friends, Kristin and Sam here. We're on summer break at the Fundraising Elevator, and we hope you get some time to fill your cup as well. While we're taking some time to enjoy the Pacific Northwest summer, we wanted to pull forward some ENCORE episodes that are full of great content to keep your event headed up.
We've handpicked a 9-part series to help you get ready for your fall event. We'll cover sponsorships, program development, special appeals, storytelling big asks, board engagement, and more. We'll be back on October 7th, bringing you a new season full of insights and community connections to remind us all that we're in this work together. Enjoy this week's ENCORE episode.
Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Swaim Strategies, a consulting firm dedicated to nonprofit fundraising events. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristin Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Hello, and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. Today, Kristin and I wanted to talk about the importance of gathering. We feel like we've been hearing a lot of stories lately of folks that are really struggling with how to move forward in these uncertain times. And I think oftentimes it is a relief or an ease to say we're going to hit pause. And yet I think But I think there's other ways that we could think about that and think about how we continue to move our mission forward. So today, before we dive in, Kristin, I want to make sure to start off with a couple of announcements. First of all, welcome to season 3. This is, we're now a couple episodes in, and we want to make sure to remind you that as we start thinking about building community around your mission, our community only builds if you are doing all the things, liking, following, subscribing, sharing with friends. We hope that you'll share this podcast out with others if you feel inspired. The other thing we want to make sure you know about is the Elevate Conference. This is our 2-day hybrid conference that is all about fundraising events. Yep. And a lot's changing in that space. So we hope that you'll join us this year. You can tune in from home or you can join us in person in Portland, Oregon, March 3rd and 4th of 2026. And you can find out more information about that conference at swaimstrategies.com. We also have put together a bunch of quick resources for you because I know we're deep in the middle of fall fundraising event season. And so we have a couple of key things we wanted to give you as tools where you can find immediate solutions. First, our Substack is where we are posting up to the minute things you should be thinking about now, news you should know, resources for you. We also have a whole tools section on our website that allows you templates and resources that you can download. But you can always book on-demand consulting from Kristin or I. If you want help with your program, schedule time with Kristin. If you need help with your data tool or your guest registration process, schedule time with Mary. And if you need help with your fundraising strategy or your event format, schedule time with me. So lots of resources for you to make sure that your fall fundraising is a success. But we are in the middle of it right now. Fall fundraising is happening. Galas are happening. Yeah. I think this past weekend, we knew of 19 different galas that are happening in our community alone. I see all of our auctioneer friends posting all of their videos from so many different events right now. And I know it can be stressful. So we want to take a step back and take a breath and take a look at the why and remind us all about the gatherings that we're creating and really, truly the impact that you can have. We also want to talk about how engaging together, engagement as human beings in a room has a lot of power that other ways of connecting and engaging don't. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of hope that can be drawn from that. So Kristin, let's dive in and talk a little bit about this idea of why our brains crave community so much.
Yeah, you had an opportunity a few weeks ago to be a guest, which when you're in the realm of events does not always happen as often. And so you got to go to this really amazing event and to remember from sort of that guest seat perspective, why events? Yeah. And what it is about them that makes gathering so impactful. Can you share a little bit about that experience to kind of tee up today's conversation so we can start to hang some of the science and the other ideas off of that?
Well, so first of all, the event was Latino Network's event. It is Noche Bella. And this event, thank you, shout out to our amazing development director friend, Juan Martinez, for the opportunity to come as a guest, and to our awesome partners at the Fundraising Event Company who were producing the event and just did a fantastic job of making sure it was a really powerful event. But there were some reminders there for me that as a guest, I sometimes don't get to experience when I'm behind the scenes. So the first thing that I will say is that the audience there came ready to go. Like, people were excited to be there. People were dressed to the nines, and people were giving hugs and lots of celebration. And as we walked in the door, there was a mariachi band that was a youth mariachi band that was positioned outside. And I came into a foyer space where there were no lines at registration. Shout out to Mary Elizabeth for her work on that. And when we got to the registration desk, we were welcomed. We were expected. Our name was on the list.
Yeah.
The registration process was streamlined and easy, thanks to our friends at Greater Giving, who have a great software product that allowed for quick registration. I say all that because it made it that it was easy to immediately become a part of the event. There were no barriers to participation.
Yeah.
The second thing is that when we went into the room, I noticed that the importance of celebration and connection. People were hugging each other, were celebrating being together. And, I think a lot of us can say that when we're in social justice work, our work feels really volatile right now. The environment feels volatile right now. And it was so nice to feel safe, to feel like we were in a safe space, and to hug each other and to say, "Are you okay? And how are you holding up? And how can I help you?" And that was the predominant conversation that was happening. So immediately there was this sort of like bubbling energy of reunion, connection, joy to be in community together. We then moved into the program where there was food already on the table when we sat down. It was delicious, yummy food. There were performances. There were really compelling speeches. There was a real sense of celebration and joy. And there was a professional fundraiser on that stage, Kelly Russell, who was doing all of the lift of moving the audience to give and participate.
With purpose. Like, everything was moving with purpose.
Yes. And they followed that, key formula of really making sure that the stories all connected to each other and that the theme was throughout, that it was like a single story all weaving together. In the end, what I noticed is it just felt really good to be a part of. It felt like there was a sense of we just did something really big together. But the impact of that, the end result of that, was that they went way beyond their fundraising goal. And they had some extraordinary surprise gifts that happened in the room. And so today, I think it's important as we try to figure out, how do we keep funding our missions? If grant funding is changing, how do we lean into community? And that they were just a shining example of it. And I want to be able to kind of pull that through in today's conversation because they did a lot of things right that are worth highlighting, that we can all integrate into all of our fundraising events.
Yeah. And when you came home and I said, "How was it?" you just said, "It was so great."
Yeah, it was.
And it took you a little bit to even be able to like break that down into component parts, like, to play insider baseball when we got home about like this and that and the other. You just had an experience that was like, it felt great to be there.
Yeah.
It felt great to give. My time was used, all of those things. So there's a lot of neurological, physiological elements at play to make that experience, that great synergy happen when we're in a group gathering. I'm wondering if you can talk about a few of those elements.
Yeah, I can. I want to talk first about belonging, because there was an interesting dynamic happening where I was in attendance with a guest, Lisa, that was joining me that did not know anyone in the room. And so
that's an interesting frame to hold.
Because I walked in knowing a lot of people. She walked in not having any relationship to donors in the room. And I think we would both agree that we walked out of there feeling a sense of belonging. So there's this interesting sort of dichotomy happening where we both come from different perspectives, but we're leaving there with a shared experience.
Yeah.
And that to me was facilitated in two ways. One, there was a lot of care and attention in having the board members and the staff members very present as hosts. So I had multiple board members come up to me and thank me for being there, give me a quick little we're really excited about tonight because, and they had their own personal exciting thing.
Preview of coming attractions,
And then the other thing that I noticed is that they were all really quick to make sure to introduce themselves to Lisa and also to introduce us to other people.
Yep.
And that simple act in the social time created immediate connection.
Yep.
That conversations were seamless, that there was quick relationship flow. They also had a number of elected officials in the room, and the staff made a really concerted effort to move those elected officials through the space and introduce them to as many people as possible. So people felt seen and connected and welcomed in a way that created this bigger sense of belonging. That belonging is a powerful tool for helping people feel like this is something that they should care about, right?
Yeah.
So that was sort of the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed was the importance of oxytocin. So the mariachi band at the beginning was like a fun celebratory way to enter. The Ballet Folklorico performance that happened on the stage was a fun celebratory way to start the program. The speakers had these really compelling storytelling elements. And then there was just this connection that was giving that all led to oxytocin release. And oxytocin is that bonding hormone for us. A few episodes back, we talked to Paul Zak about oxytocin and dopamine release. And dopamine is the moral molecule, right? He phrased it as it's the thing that makes us want to serve others, that makes us want to do good in the world. But oxytocin is that connection hormone, that like community feeling of trust and feeling of safety.
Yeah.
That to me was powerful because it created this energy in the room where people were authentically themselves. Now, the audience was diverse. We had people ranging in all different areas of work, all different areas of personal goals and agendas. But that sense of community celebration created a sense of, I want to be connected to this organization because it's a safe place. I think this safety is really important right now for a lot of communities. There were endorphins being released, joy, surprise giving that was happening in the room. And endorphins to me are that thing that makes you feel like this is worth the time, right? Like my time is being used well. And then that overall sense of higher purpose. The executive director, Tony DeFalco, gave a speech that was really powerful about the importance of all. And he emphasized the importance that we were working together on work for everyone in that room. That this wasn't serving only one small community or population, that this was an effort to create all and equity for all. So it felt like there was this bigger mobilization that leaving that event, I felt like, oh, they hit all of those big bucket things that make people want to stay connected to this organization.
They made the tent big enough.
Yeah. And in doing that, it was little things like great storytelling. It was little things like hosting like the world depended on it. They just made sure everyone felt connected and welcome. And then having little like pops of joy and celebration throughout. Yeah. It wasn't, it's a hard time. The community's under attack. Their funding's being changed. There's a lot of challenges ahead, but they really focused on what they are doing, what they are moving forward, how they're adapting, and a sense of celebration and joy, which all of those things, I think, when we're thinking about how do we get through this time, how do we evolve in this time, how do we continue on with our mission as the need grows and the funding from federal funds drops, to me, they had the secret sauce. And it was little things within the event that made that happen. But a lot of that had to do a lot with the dynamics of the storytelling.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, can you talk a little bit about that dynamic of like stories happening together or stories occurring in groups together?
Yeah. I want to start, I wrote it down because I want to get the quote right. Megan Falley put a quote out on Substack a few weeks ago that just sort of resonated for me as a grounding place to start this conversation. And it is, maybe that's what all storytelling is for, to let us practice being human before life requires it. We don't just watch movies and plays. We don't just read books. We try them on. And when reality finally arrives, we recognize the shape of it. Our hearts have already practiced. And to me, that as a grounding in why stories and why stories together maps so well. It's that act of us being human in space together. And we all know there's so many neurological components of stories that are critical for us as humans in the world, understanding the world. And then when we're doing it in space together, something levels up.
Yeah.
And so I say it every time I talk about this, but the University College London study where they hooked people up to all the things that measure perspiration, respiration, heart rates, and put people in a theater facing forward watching a play. And what they found was very quickly in that room, all of those people, some of whom knew each other, some of whom were strangers to each other, their heartbeats synced. And there is something, because that story is tapping into the brain in a way and creating this synchronization effect. And I think when we think about events, we don't always think about what the impact of an individual donor watching that story in community is.
Oh, yeah.
As a difference from
like shoulder to shoulder.
Shoulder to shoulder, but also just there is a different experience of that story when I'm having it, it's like when I watch a movie with myself or with other people, I have an awareness of them.
Yeah.
I have an awareness when the story's getting tricky or emotional, or we're all just cackling together out loud. There is something in that synchronization when people move, when they breathe, when they focus their attention, it creates a neural alignment between us that enhances cooperation and trust.
Say that again.
When people move, breathe, when we focus our attention on one thing together, it creates neural alignment. So in addition to the heartbeats, our brains create a neural alignment and it enhances cooperation. We are all working together to raise money for this mission.
Right.
And trust.
So I'm having an aha moment as you say that, because in this event that I was using as an example, at Noche Bella, they told a story that was their appeal story of a single individual person that then they also shared out in an email afterwards. And it was incredibly impactful to watch it in the email digitally at home on my laptop. But I do think about the fact that when I watched it in the room, I was watching the other people as much as I was watching the story.
That's right.
Because at our table, we had probably 3 or 4 people that really emotionally connected with the story. So I saw tears, I heard wow, I heard ahas, I heard agreements. But then I looked around the room and I also saw people leaning into each other. I saw people holding hands. I saw people supporting each other. And then when she took the stage with her family after having just shared her story in a video, the room stood up for her. And so that idea of experiencing something together has a bigger impact than experiencing it alone.
It creates social alliance. So when you and I are watching a movie together and something happens and I'm cackling and I look over and you're like, WTF just happened. That is not funny at all. We're not in social alliance. So that impacts me in my feeling of cackle and questioning, am I wrong or is she wrong? Right. And all of a sudden this other narrative starts taking over the space because we're out of alignment in terms of responding to what's happening. And so in that room, when people are leaning in together and experiencing that social alignment, you're creating this other energy, this other space that happens in group dynamics. And you brought it up just a minute ago, that idea that Dr. Paul Zak brought in for us of experiencing stories shoulder to shoulder is vastly different than experiencing them solo. And there is a power to being able to have that experience with stories that you don't get other ways. And so when people talk about why events, it's the brain chemistry, it's the physiological, it's the heart rates, all of that sort of stuff. But the net sum effect of that is creating, I look around this room and this is a we.
Yeah.
I've got your back. You've got my back. We're both leaning into this organization and you said it at the top, this felt like a safe space. And I think sometimes people think that imbuing events with joy, moments of joy, detracts from mission.
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah.
They're like, we can't do that.
Right.
We're a blah, blah, blah organization.
Yeah, we're dealing with housing crisis.
I'm not talking about a non sequitur. Like, I'm not talking about bringing a stand-up comedian into the room.
Right.
But earnest joy and calibrated moments for people to shift gears through neurological and physiological states together only creates more resonance around that. If there's one joke that everybody laughs at, but then everybody's not on the same page for the rest of the time, that doesn't achieve anything.
Yeah.
But when you're shifting through gears because people can only stay in sustained states so long, right? You're actually working that alchemy toward a more cohesive outcome. And stories are the shortest, quickest vehicles to do that as a universal structure that human beings have used forever to make sense of the world around them.
Well, so there's an element there that I just want to pull back on because so many folks are probably like deep in their gala planning right now that feel the overwhelm. But I also want to just frame from that perspective as an organization, if you're rethinking your gala, if you're not sure if you should do your gala, you don't have to gather as a gala, right?
Correct.
Like there's lots of gathering experiences that we're seeing that are as impactful simply by the group coming together. So we had an organization in earlier this summer that they chose to gather their 50 biggest donors at a board member's house in their garden and just do some storytelling and some, effective fundraising with something that was smaller and intimate and easier to produce. We had another organization that instead of moving into the gala because they were in such a stage of we need to reframe everything, they held a gathering that was really a rally. And in that they gave everyone that sort of call and response and that interaction. So when you're thinking about moments when you've experienced story sharing, is there an event that you've been to? We're using this one event as an example, but I'm sure there's other events you've been to where you've experienced storytelling as a collective versus individual. Yeah.
The thing I think about, and it's quite literally a story event, but the scale of it I think is helpful. So for a while I was a program director at a nonprofit organization here in Portland called Playwright.
Yeah.
And we would go into different educational environments and work for 2 weeks with students on them crafting their own 2-character play.
Yeah.
Characters had to be non-human.
Such a cool organization.
And the conflict had to be real and emotionally based. And then at the end of that 2 weeks, the writer turned into the director and directed professional actors through a rehearsal. And then that play was performed. So the event at the end of the 2 weeks was all of the students in the program's plays being performed in front of their peers. And it was established from the top when their peers came in that this was official. There was a play program with their name, the name of their play right there. And they introduced their play, the actors played out their play, and then they went up and took a bow. And there was something in that made that story real. And it made it real for everybody. It made it real for me as the coach who had been with them shoulder to shoulder for 2 weeks working on this process. Something came alive for the actors. Something came alive for the audience. But you could feel the room. And it was different than when we had been rehearsing it earlier or working on it and not seeing eye to eye on things a week and a half ago, whatever that was. And so when they looked out into that room and could own their story, I can't help but think of those moments when I think about some of our appeal speakers getting up after their appeal story and looking out into that room and just that sense of pardon my French, but fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm here and that's my story and I'm moving forward and we're all together. There is that sense of cohesion and alignment and transference of story and understanding that I just think is so impactful for storytellers when they are looking out into a room of story listeners that are all having all of those things neurologically and physiologically happening when they're hearing that story and leaning in and the space that creates for people.
So you referenced something that I want to like break down just a little, like how to. Yep. So you reference that the story sharer is getting up in front of a live audience of story listeners.
Yeah.
That moment is something I want to break down because oftentimes in a fundraising event, we recommend that the story sharer be videotaped. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It allows,
in the telling of their story.
In the telling of their story. Yeah. The sharing of the story often is via a short video, 3 to 5 minute video that shares their experience where they were in search of something, the organization was the change agent, and now they have resolution where they've been able to see the impact of the work. It's a impact story that is a like specific deep dive into why this work matters. But we also recommend that that person is in the room and that that person takes the stage.
Yeah.
We use video because it allows us to do a lot of things. It allows us to show a much broader story than you can get just in the audio format. It allows us to incorporate things like B-roll and photos. And
it also allows us to see them in the context of their life.
Yeah.
And when they're standing up in front of a room at an event, that's not normal life for any of us.
Right, right. But then because they've been in the context of their life, oftentimes that video, they're in jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now they're at your big gala and they're in a ball gown and they're coming to the stage. So we always, when the video ends and the lights come up, we always have the MC introduce that person because for the audience, then there's no context gap. There's a clear understanding of who this person is. And then they take this stage, and now there is a real interaction between the two where the audience realizes, oh, this is a real person in the room with us. And now all of the emotional sort of collective energy that was felt watching that video gets transferred into a show of support when that person takes the stage. So that simple act of just bringing them to the stage, but then having them say a few words about the impact and make the ask to support can be a total game changer for your organization. If you are planning your event and you have a story planned and you're not inviting that person to the stage, you are missing what possibly might be the most powerful opportunity for your audience and for them. Because that moment gives them full ownership that this is their story and they're using it for good to raise money for your cause.
And I think, to sort of add to the conversation of people pulling back, going, we can't do that to people. That's whatever. That's tokenizing. That's this, that's that. This is a conversation, and this is an earnest opportunity for them to be themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think, you and I have seen several events where that moment gets interesting, right? Because that person gets on stage and is making it their moment and is doing it as they are and saying what they want to say in that moment.
What are you trying to say right now, Kristin?
Sometimes you can script it. And sometimes it doesn't happen exactly to script, but it is a beautiful opportunity for us to be human in front of one another. And people hold that space so well.
Well, and I would advocate that it's that moment that is the thing that keeps it from being tokenizing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. It's an invite in.
Yeah.
And I think you need to make it sure it feels like an invite in.
Right. Don't surprise the person.
Don't surprise this person, but also don't leave them hanging.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we can go into, we've talked about this a bazillion times. What I'd love to do is we're talking about some big ideas.
Yeah.
What are people go, great, but I'm knee deep in logistics, and logistics are how you make this stuff happen, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the logistics, I don't know where that came from, logistics that folks need to be thinking about to execute?
Yeah. So I think if you're coming right up on your event and you're within 30 days of your event, there's a couple of key things you can make sure you just have like dialed extra tight for a really stellar event. So we talked a lot about the story. That's where I think that people kind of push that to the end and don't do enough planning and prep for that.
Yeah,
so
they leave it to the last.
Yeah, I think at this point, if you're 30 days out from the event, that should be your primary focus, is getting your program dialed in, those speeches dialed in, practiced, that people are practicing what they're going to say. and those videos completed, because the story coming in at the last second never is quite as cohesive as when you've actually put time into making sure that that entire story arc, every word being said on your stage, has a through line to it. So that's the number one thing I would like. Set aside everything else. Don't worry about the centerpieces. Don't worry about the load-in times. Focus on your story if you haven't done that yet. That's the most important part. The second easiest thing that I think you can do to make sure you're focused on a great guest experience is the welcome. So we talked with Paul Zach about staging. I think that if people come into an event feeling confused and they don't know what's expected of them, and there's giant lines, and they have a hard time finding the ballroom in the middle of a big venue like a convention center or a casino, you're putting barriers to participation to the point where people are like, this is not worth my time, and they step out.
Also, I would add what you experienced at Latino Network's event in the social hour of being brought in.
Yes.
That levels that playing field in a way that you feel like I'm also supposed to be here.
Yes.
I don't know that clique. I don't know that group. Right. I don't know that person. And not being invited into any of those spaces just makes you feel like, I don't know if I want to be here.
Yeah. There were literally hosts designated, board members and staff members that were there just to host.
It's so smart.
And it makes a difference.
It does.
The third thing I would say is focus on psychological safety. There's a lot going on right now that I feel like gatherings feel like a tumultuous place, right? We're seeing that gatherings often are where anxieties run high, or where people feel a sense of, concern about where they're at, where they're positioned, what their safety might be for any number of reasons. We've seen acts of violence. We've seen threats of specific communities that take the time you need to take to make sure that not only do you have safety measures and safety policies and safety actions, which we have and we will share with you. We'll put together a safety briefing specifically in a Substack when this comes out. So when you're listening to this podcast, you can find that on our Substack. But having those things in place just makes everyone's energy able to actually be present, because you don't have to worry about those things. You know what will happen. You know sort of what your plan of approach is. And having key indicators at the door that tell me you are here in the right place, you are safe, all of those things allow me to participate fully. So
I know you've thought about it.
Yeah. I mean, one example, just to give a really clear example, we had an organization this fall, right as their big event was coming up, contact us and say, we've had enough concern coming from attendees about ICE at our event of any possible interference that we want to also offer a virtual component. So people have that opportunity to participate in the way that they feel comfortable. So hybrid events are very popular right now for that reason. It creates safety and it creates comfort. The fourth thing I would say is you want to make sure that you give your audience a way to engage with a clear call to action. Sometimes I think we are fearful of asking. We hold a fundraising event and hope that there will magically be fundraising. Or the thing I'm hearing a lot lately is we'll follow up after the event.
No.
Right?
No.
It shocks me sometimes because I know that in that event, all the things you just talked about, the in-person, shoulder-to-shoulder, experiencing something together makes us more likely to respond.
Take that energy and put it somewhere, y'all.
Yes. But not only that, Paul Zach taught us that if you don't give people that opportunity to be asked in, invited in, asked to participate in a clear and easy way, their satisfaction level goes down. So they may have just attended the best event ever, but because they weren't given an opportunity to give, their satisfaction goes down. So giving people a way to give, I think, is an incredibly important element.
Everyone knows
any
they're at
gathering.
A fundraising event.
Yes, exactly.
This is not a mystery.
And then finally, a sense of recognition. I think we get so focused on our stories and making our case for our work and doing an effective paddle raise that we can't forget the celebration, the joy, the gratitude, making sure that we thanked everyone, that we have people on our stage that lead with gratitude, that we are making sure that there's little moments of joy. Example is we had an event where when folks got to their seat, there was a little gift and a little note that was written by one of the clients of the nonprofit. So that sense of little ooh and ah and gratitude forward, I think is really an important element to think about. So as you're tied up in all your logistics and you're super like stressed with what curtains we're using, what furniture we're renting, what load-in times are going to be, remember that sometimes just simply effectively sharing our story in a place that feels safe, in a way that feels welcoming, can be more impactful than all of those other logistics.
Absolutely. I love that. Let's take a short break.
Okay.
Let's let people
digest
a little bit. And when we come back, we're going to talk about gatherings and sort of what you can take with gatherings outside of the room and what that sort of bigger experience out of the singular experience of an event is.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the Fundraising Elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristin for your programming and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at swaimstrategies.com. You can also find the link in our show notes.
Welcome back. It's just Sam and I here today talking about why gatherings.
Yeah.
I think especially now we're hearing folks are just canceling them.
Yeah.
And we're pulling back.
Don't cancel.
Don't cancel, or pulling back or rethinking or this or that. And so we're here today to build the case for why gatherings achieve something for you that other things you're doing around fundraising and donor cultivation do not.
Yes.
It's those things do other things. I'm not saying those are not important, but I'm saying the gatherings are also very important to what you're doing in building a movement around your mission. So let's talk about the actual dynamics in the gathering beyond specific storytelling moments.
Okay. Go.
Gathering has the capacity to create cohesion.
Yeah.
Break down some of the program elements that create cohesion and engagement.
Well, so there's something I want to think about too as I dive into this, is that separation and isolation is something that I never really thought about until COVID hit. Right. And what we experienced out of that, it's interesting. We have a friend that's a school teacher, and she said this is the first class that she's experiencing in the middle school level that is coming in feeling collaborative and cooperative and is feeling a sense of caring about their other students. And I think that we have to remember that isolation is a form of torture.
Yeah.
That when we separate one from the many, we're missing the fact that we are all built to live in village communities.
Social creatures,
we're social creatures. And so there are things that we can use in a gathering to help people feel even more tightly bonded.
Yep.
In a way that it's funny because sometimes you don't realize they're playing on you in any special way. And yet I would say these are the things that are like the bubbly effervescent that sticks with you. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that I would say is we can invite folks in first with easy interactive activities like a call and response. So by having that opportunity for me to say something and you to repeat it, and for you to teach me what to say, and for me to know clearly how to participate, you will actually see the room participate more and more as it happens. So an example might be that you might have a slogan for a campaign or a slogan for your fundraising that you're doing, that as you say it throughout the evening, if you've taught your audience how to do it once, they'll respond with it, right? So now we all feel like we're in the inner circle. We all feel like we're in the know. We've all been taught how to respond. We saw this happen really clearly when we did an event where it was for Make-A-Wish, and they were focusing on one of their wish kids who wished to be a princess. And that night we taught all the guests how to curtsy and how to do a royal bow anytime the princess was in your presence. And then as she moved through the room, we saw everyone participate in it. And that was something that allowed everyone to feel like they were like in the know, right? That they were insiders and they knew exactly what to do. And when you know exactly what to do, you're likely to do it even more. It's the reason why when a band is on stage and all of a sudden you see like the bass guitarist stop playing and all of a sudden is like clapping their hands and getting everyone to clap. It's that teaching moment to show it's easy. Let me show you. And now we're all in on it. Now, do you feel that?
Yeah.
And the energy rises naturally. So call and response is something you hear a lot in church communities. It's something you hear a lot in protest movements, in civil disobedience, because it creates that sense of like immediate connection. Song is also something that creates immediate connection. And I am fascinated right now because I had a podcast conversation earlier last month in which we were diving into those like moments that can be shifting moments at an event. Sometimes that moment is a really big gift coming in that's unexpected. Sometimes that moment is hitting a goal collectively, right? Those things can be giant shifting moments at an event. But I saw this play out in another way recently in a story about an airport that was in total shutdown. And this airport had trains that got you from terminal to terminal to terminal. And no one could catch the alternatives that were being offered to them because the trains weren't running. And so you couldn't get to another flight option, even if you had an option, because there was no way to get from terminal to terminal. And as the stress levels were rising and the crowd was growing and that like tension energy was growing, there was a man in the airport that happened to have an old school boombox. And he put on Sweet Caroline. And immediately the audience or the crowd joined in with bum ba da. And that sense of we all know what to do, we all know what this moment is, diffused the situation and brought that situation into a sense of collective action and really changed the energy and the dynamic of being able to clear out the airport. Well, this is true in our events too. When we bring music into the event, not only is it something that can like create a sense of joy and create a sense of connection, but we actually can feel those rhythms and those beats collectively. If we know that song, we're more likely to participate in it and to sing along to that song. And when that happens, you sync your heartbeat together. Just like the storytelling, music can sync your heartbeat together. So let's say, for example, that there is a speaker on your stage that is speaking about really hard things in our society that we are trying to solve right now. Let's say it's access to food and hunger issues in our society. Those might be really hard things to hear about. And then if you bring in a moment where you have a children's choir that has been supporting and serving this organization show up and sing a song, that audience connection to that choir can shift that energy and grow that energy to something that is filled with hope and filled with emotional resonance. So hard things can also be something that you process or move or shift the energy around using music. So call and response, music, something as simple as clapping along, like the band that gets the audience clapping, it gives you that sense of I'm a part of this. And then finally, all of those things leading to a paddle raise moment. That paddle raise is your opportunity to create immediate collective action in the room. That sense of I want to be a part of this. I'm giving in whatever way I can. Paddle raise is something everyone can participate in. We encourage that you make it inclusive. We encourage that you go to the $100 level so that folks can participate. And the interesting thing is in a hybrid space, we have so many ways people can give by a donate button or a text to give that we even see folks that are joining in and participating at $5 levels, at $7 levels. We had an organization one year who their executive director was retiring after 35 years at the organization, and they did a $35 level ask. So that sense of everyone participating, if you've had a sense of joy in music, a sense of I know how to participate, a sort of call and response moment or a sense of, I know what's expected here and I know how to be a part of it moment. By the time you get to the paddle raise, everyone's ready. Like everyone's already collectively a part of the action.
Yep. Let's come at it a different way.
Okay.
Sometimes there are things that people are doing that they do not know are standing in the way of this, right? That are standing in the way of cohesion and engagement. What are some of the elements you see at events that are working against collective engagement?
There's just a couple that I would highlight. One is any frustration at getting into the event. So, oftentimes with a fundraising dinner or a fundraising gala, that sort of gathering, we're often in spaces that are bigger than our event. So we might be in a hotel, we might be in a convention center, we might be in a casino. Those are all spaces that are hard to navigate to figure out how to get to your door. So the number one thing I would say is you can ease that by having enough greeters and enough signage that people know exactly how to find you.
Yep.
Anytime there's difficulty or it seems like you're not expected, that is a message to tap out. It is a message to avoid embarrassment by getting out of here. So long lines at registration, not having all your guest names collected, not having an easy check-in process, those are all barriers to even starting to slide into participation. The second thing I would say is overconsumption of alcohol. I think there's a misnomer in the fundraising space that if we serve them enough alcohol, it'll loosen the wallets.
It is something that comes up so often.
And I think it works against our effort, right? Because it's nice to like have a little social lubrication with a glass of wine, but 6 glasses of wine in, we're actually more in crisis management and crowd control management than we are in attention and attentive and engaged and celebratory audiences.
You're spending energy somewhere you don't need to.
Yeah. The third thing I would say is transactional giving. I think a lot of organizations lean into transactional giving as the way to move forward. Like, we're worried and nervous and scared to ask for money. And so instead, we're going to have all the raffles and all the auctions, and it's going to be like all the activities. But
it's going to be a blizzard of things coming at you all night.
A blizzard of transaction. But all of those are retail engagements, right? They're not relational. They're not building relationships to the organization. So the third thing I would say is focus on relationships, give people the opportunity to connect to each other, and not focus on, let me sell you something here, let me sell you something there. It feels a little bit like you're walking through that like flea market feel where it's like, buy this, buy that. Move away from that and get focused on people in community together. I think that when it's hard to find, when we've overconsumed, when we have way too many ways to engage and none of them actually have to do with people being in community, we're kind of working against ourselves in the fundraising.
Yes. I agree. No, I agree. I absolutely agree with all that.
Well, there are times, though, that I think that the gathering has a potential that we just don't see in other areas of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes that gathering is something where we get so focused on our goal and our fundraising that we miss that people sometimes actually leave there with a taste in their mouth, so to speak, of I love this organization or I hate this organization or what did I just do with my time? That I'm curious about your perspective about those sort of powerful moments and what gatherings can do beyond just the paddle raise moment or just the fundraising moment.
Yeah. So this might be my soapbox moment.
Okay, do it.
I wrote a few notes down because I think we get so granular and we get so in the weeds about the event. This has to be $350,000 event this year, and this sponsor has to come back, like weeds, right?
Right.
It's not that those things are not important and critical to the success of the event, but I think it is also helpful for us to think about the dynamics that an event holds for us as humans and how that can translate into actual donor cultivation in a way that other ways that we are fundraising with our donors don't. And so bigger picture when we think about events or gatherings more specifically, because I think it can be a gala, but I think it can also be something—
a garden party.
Something much more intimate, smaller scale. Gatherings are where we get to practice being in the world. to your point earlier about isolation during the pandemic, the world has a lot of dynamics to it. Gatherings are a smaller space than the world writ large, right? And so gatherings can be that like toe in the pond to sort of get my feet wet, to feel like, oh, I know how to be a human with other humans, and now I can go out into the bigger world, right? And that seems very, very elemental, but I think in all the logistics pieces you've gone through earlier and some of those dynamic spaces about belonging, when you have gatherings working against that, I don't feel like I'm in the world and I'm not learning something that's beneficial to me to take out into the world. And so leaving that taste in my mouth, I kind of go, well, that was not a good use of my time.
Right.
And yet if I learn something or feel something or am a part of something with other people, I leave there going, yeah, I can't quite put my finger on it, but that was great.
Yeah.
You know? And
those are my favorite.
those are the best.
Yeah.
Because we know too much sometimes, I think, to be great consumers of events. So when we leave and there's something that we can't quite put our finger on yet, that's the best. And so when we look at how people are in space, there's a social cognition that happens for humans when they're mapping space. It's the base of human development. And that's how we form relationships. That's how we form community effectively and how we are able to navigate social interactions successfully. And so that social cognition is happening at your event. Everybody in that event is doing that. So when you walk into Latino Network's event, your social cognition was heading in the direction of belonging, a part of emotional connection and movement. But also that can happen another way. And so there's a group collective power that you're also trying to harness in your space, but that's based on individual users. And there's something collective that happens when all of that is moving in a direction together. And so I think the other thing to think about too is that you're tapping into multiple sensory channels simultaneously at your event.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people only think about the one moment that's happening on the stage.
Right.
That is not the only input that is happening for people in that moment. So there is subtle body language. So when you have ineffective storytelling and you have people tapping out and doing all kinds of different body language, they're signaling other users in the room that this story is not important and that they don't need to be there. So I know we keep harping on the story you're telling at your event, but when you're able to create the cohesion of heartbeats synced in a room and everybody tapping into that moment, there's a collective power that comes with that is greater than the sum of its parts. Language is happening in that room, pheromones, vocal tones, spatial dynamics that our brains use to assess cohesion and our place within it. So if people can't move through a room because of the logistics of your layout or the line at registration, so I'm hoping people can start to see that what you want people to feel can be actually impacted by things that you're doing. I think some people are like, I can't name how the mood Joe walks into the room with. No, you cannot name and control the mood Joe walks into the room with, but you can certainly funnel it in a different direction. Or give yourself a best case scenario for making it shift, right? Don't bandwagon on the bad mood by having all of these other pieces in the way. And I think the other thing I want to stress is that stronger bonding responses from a group of people in a room synchronizes our nervous system with others, and it becomes emotional contagion.
Yeah.
Those all sound like negative words, but they're actually really, really great together. Contagion is not something people want to think about, but that's what you want. You want my emotional response at my table of 10 to become contagious. And then all of a sudden that table, everybody's like, oh my God, it's this unspoken thing and it happens. And that's that ripple you're talking about happening across a room when it's like, oh, it's all of that happening together. And what that sets the stage for is that it's okay for me to feel that. And not only is it okay for me to feel that, I am in a room with 300 people who also believe that's true. And that is really, really powerful for cohesion in my place in the world and my mission and your mission being in alignment. I think it is a little perhaps wooey and people get nervous about it, but I think I really want to push people to think about gatherings being a place for ritual space, right? Like they are a space where group identity becomes strengthened.
Yeah.
And the act of being together in that room, I look across at strangers and people I know alike, it signals commitment and investment. And I can't convey that individually to those donors as well. When I'm having a one-on-one conversation with a donor, it's potentially easier for me to say, and there's 200 other people who feel exactly the same way as you and are giving us money.
Right.
But drop that donor into a room where they look around and that is evident by what is happening in the room, the emotional states, the actual paddles in the air. That becomes a different thing. And it's like, yes, we come together at this event and we celebrate this mission and we invest in this mission as a ritual space for this organization. And so I think it's thinking about the power of that to signal that to donors. There's psychological states that gatherings put into play that other forms of things don't. Large crowds can create feelings of transcendence. And I talked about this in Elevate, this idea of collective effervescence. And Emile Durkheim was a 20th century sociological guy in France and coined this term, collective effervescence. And I love it because we've even talked about it, bubbly, right?
Yeah.
There's just this bubbly that happens that individually I can't achieve, but collectively there is this thing that happens and it excites individuals and serves us to unify as a group. That's one piece of it. But that group unification then helps me feel like I'm not alone. And so that's the full circle piece of it, of sending me out into the world after that event. We've had a group experience at your event around your organization, and then I leave knowing that I am a part of at least 300 strong who believe that that is true and want to see that change in the world. And that's really, really powerful. So that when I go back to my life and perhaps something happens that I feel like I don't have any power over that, I know that I have power and I have a group who also have power who are making something else real and happen.
Well, it's interesting because I immediately think about the things that I do right after an event like that. And one of the first things I do is I go to social media and I scroll through social media to see what other people are posting about the event. I want to see the outfits that I may have missed in the room. I want to see who else was there that I may have missed. I want to see, that sense of I was part of that. I was there.
But also, did they feel about it the way I feel about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that to me leads into this idea that we can put really great stories on our stage. We can have really great programs on our stage, but sometimes it's not just about what's on the stage. Right. So talk to me a little bit about sort of that idea of what we're watching beyond just the program on the stage.
Yep. So I'm not sure that we always think about people in the room beyond don't seat Jennifer at X company table because Jennifer got fired from that company and is now working for company Y. You should be thinking about the people in that room beyond your seating meeting. I was listening to the Cannonball podcast with Wesley Morrison. He was talking about going to Las Vegas to see Cowboy Carter and was walking through the parking lot, hadn't even gotten into the show yet, and realized that the parking lot was people going to the show who had actually gotten dressed for each other.
Like a fashion runway in the parking lot.
Fashion runway in the parking lot. And that idea that they were, maybe even parenthetically, but thinking about each other when they were getting ready for the event. And that really sort of that sort of crystallized for me this idea of people are in that room together and they are looking at each other. They are looking for cues from each other. They are looking for invites in or push away out from. All of that sort of stuff is happening in that room beyond just what is happening up on the stage. And so I think when you're thinking about your program and you're thinking about the bounds of your event, that is at the core as well, that people are in space together, and that gatherings, events are that place where donors can see each other, can hold each other up, can maybe have a little friendly competition with one another, but that we are not 300 individuals just coming to face forward at an event and watch what you have to tell us. We are there to experience it together and to have conversations and stories with one another. And so you're actually creating a space for that all to happen as well. And so I think thinking about that a little bit is helpful when we think about why gathering as well. That we are there to be in community together, and that's at the basis of why people come to an event.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting when you go to an event, especially around like a community organization that you support. I see that business deals are happening. I see that reunions are happening. Yeah. I see that sometimes even family and friends are seeing each other for the first time in a while. It allows there to be something more than just the focus. But I think we want to make sure that when people leave that room, they leave there carrying that, right? They leave there with the collective effervescence that has been created by all of us, dressing for each other and being in that room together, being inspired by the organization, raising a lot of money together. And so, sometimes DJs will put a lot of effort into that final song of the night, right? Like, what is that thing that we leave people with? Well, I encourage you to do that same thing with your program. You want to put the bow on the end of the package so that by the time you're saying, enjoy the celebration, have a great night, DJ dance floor is open, that there's something in that moment that is a giant, sort of big celebratory thing. It could be that it's a final performance. It could be that it is a small piece of poetry. It could be that it is a moment of community coming together. We actually were at an event last spring where a number of the speakers on the stage joined hands and asked everyone in the room to join hands. Yeah. It could be that call and response moment, that big clap along moment, that moment of surprise and delight that leaves people leaving that room carrying that collective effervescence. So I always say end your program by putting a big bow on it. Yeah. And then also immediate thank you, immediate follow-up. Like, we live in this time of like, everything happens now. Social media is like live streaming for us. So how do we make sure that we're putting a message out as the organization of gratitude and thank you and love and support? One quick way that we've seen folks do that really effectively is to ask the photo booth or the photographer to immediately provide some photos on social media that you can tag and thank. Another thing that we've seen is utilizing your software database, like your Greater Giving or your One Cause, to send an immediate thank you to all of your donors that were there that night. So keep that collective effervescence moving beyond just the event. So when you send people out, you send them out feeling a sense of real joy and hope and connection, and probably exhaustion because they're tired and ready to go to bed. But when they wake up the next day, you want them to have that little like, wow, that was awesome. And maybe they don't have a like reason that they pinpoint why it was awesome, but it was because all those pieces just felt easy.
Yeah, I think when you're working against the physiological and neurological states that we want to shift into, people pull back. Yeah. And so I think it's understanding that I hope people are listening to this and hearing that there is more for you as invites in and easy things to do to make that invite in that will automatically make things happen. It's not like you need to set out your planning and going, how do I make oxytocin happen in my room? Or collective effervescence. What? Like, those are the result of some very specific key pieces that we hammer on all the time, And so I think understanding, though, what's possible when you do those things, only makes the case for doing them.
Well, let's take a short break. And when we come back, we'll step into the fundraising elevator. So I want you to think about what is the one thing that someone could do to make all of this possible.
Great. Let's do it.
All right. We'll be back in just a minute.
Thanks.
Ready for your hard work to yield more funds at your next event? Join us at Elevate, a nonprofit fundraising event conference designed to bring our community together and make planning successful events easier. Register today for this hybrid conference on March 3rd and 4th, 2026 in Portland, Oregon, or join us online from anywhere. This isn't just another conference. You'll walk away with battle-tested strategies, hands-on tools, and proven templates that top fundraisers use to raise millions. Your mission deserves fully funded success. Register today at swaimstrategies.com.
Welcome back to the fundraising elevator, where we've been talking about all of the potential that a gathering has. And I want to remind everyone, because I know we're in the middle of event season, a lot of folks are coming up on their events. Yep. And I think that there is an importance that we simply reflect on the fact that the act of gathering, while labor intensive, can be exponentially impactful for your organization. Not just the fundraising, but that sense of community, that sense of connection. So there's a couple of things that I would encourage folks to focus on this event season. And then I want to ask you to step in the elevator with me. So 3 little sort of key focus areas for folks. Okay. One is less transaction, more connection. Yep. So if you are juggling what to cross off your list and take off your plate, stop chasing down the auction package, stop chasing down the raffle prize, start thinking about how people are connecting to you and your story. Yep. Those elements can be incorporated into other things down the road. If your basket never got picked up and there's an opportunity to leverage it, you can leverage it for a campaign. You can leverage it for online giving, Giving Tuesday. Think about first, what is the way that we are connecting people? The second thing I want to encourage folks to think about is making sure you provide opportunity to participate. Yep. If I'm only a passive observer, if I never feel a sense of connection to the people that are there with me, if I never feel a sense of connection to the organization, and if I never get invited in, I will leave there feeling like it was a waste of my time. Yep. So think about opportunities for participation. How do you invite people in? How do you host them? But really what I'm saying is have a paddle raise. Ask for money at your event. And finally, create psychological safety. I think if there is a sense of, I am unclear what is expected of me, that often comes when we've overthought the logistics and we've planned all of these activities and all of these fun things to participate in, but there's no clarity of how. That creates confusion and a sense of distrust or a sense of not feeling safe participating. But put together safety plans, put together some thoughts about what are the ways that you're going to protect your audience, what are ways that you're going to invite people in so that they feel like this is a place for them to participate fully.
Yep.
So events around the corner.
Yes.
Step into the fundraising elevator with me where we're all headed up. What is one tip you would give to that planner that is a few weeks out from their event to help them keep heading up?
2. Can I do 2?
You can do 2.
Okay. The first, be the guest.
Mm-hmm.
I think we put a lot of things on people, and we think people need a lot of things that they don't.
Yeah.
And we don't give them the things they actually need.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be buried in logistics, and I can't pull you out of them, at least be the guest in your logistics. Turn off all of the I have to's. This is what we have to do. This is what we've always done. And literally be the guest for a minute and walk through your it's top to bottom. I get out of my car. All the way through your program to your after. What barriers are happening? Where do you not know what is happening? Where can you tune things up? Make that smooth, at least, so you're not working against yourself. And then if you only have a little bit left and you have all of these speakers that are happening on your stage and you have no idea what they're saying, get in there and get specific in your stories.
Yeah.
Like, Specificity and story is critical because I think organizations try to kitchen sink. This is our one opportunity every year to tell people our whole story of our 50 programs and all the blah, 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 blah. Get specific. Tell me how deep your impact is through a specific story or specific details of your programs. Pick and choose. You can't tell everybody everything. They won't retain it all. But if you get specific, I have a story I can put in my backpack and take with me to share out in the world of what you're doing. Specificity and story.
Okay. I like it.
Get in the elevator.
Okay. I'm in.
What would you tell folks?
The ask that there has to be a paddle raise moment, an opportunity to give, an opportunity to make an impact. It doesn't matter how great your event is. If you didn't give me that chance, I leave there saying, every time I leave there saying, why did you ask me to come spend my evening with you if you're not asking me or inviting me in any way? So I think my satisfaction level exponentially goes down. I know I'm unique in that I'm an event fundraiser, but I think overall what you will find is your satisfaction exponentially drops. Your board might reflect and say, that was so lovely that we didn't ask anyone for money. But in the end, I think if you did a guest survey, you get meh at best.
Yep.
And the guest survey that where you've done an effective paddle raise and people feel like they got to participate, everything else at your event could have gone sideways, and people will rate that higher than the perfectly planned event where you didn't invite people in or ask for money.
When you don't ask for money, it tells me you don't believe in your mission.
Yeah, I agree. So paddle raise, paddle raise, paddle raise. Well, we want to make sure you have lots of resources. So if you're running up against it, you're feeling like, oh my gosh, these are all great ideas, but I do not know how to adopt any of them. I want to encourage you to reach out. We have so many resources. So free resources on Substack, free resources on our tools and templates on our website. We have a book that's a how-to if you just need that simple, give me something to follow. There it is. We have the Elevate Conference. If you want to learn and experience collective effervescence together, we can share community together and talk about how to really exponentially impact your event. And we are available to you. Contact us. We are happy to hop on the phone, do an hour of consulting, advise you, help you through a sticky situation, reshift, redirect, anything that you need to get your fundraising on the right track and to make sure that your event and all the work that you put into it has that impact of exponentially creating a safety net around your organization. So, friends, happy fundraising, happy event season. We're here to support, and thank you for tuning in today to the Fundraising Elevator.
Take care, y'all.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced by Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson and Heidi Christensen. Video production by John Collier. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Friends, before we leave you, we want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please follow, subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.